Hi ladies and gents, Pond here with another video for Rise of Empires, Ice and Fire. Thank you so much for your previous likes, comments and subscriptions to the channel. If you haven't subscribed already, why not click on that button and ring the bell so you get notifications whenever I'm dropping content on the channel. And now onto the topic of this video. And of course we are celebrating the second anniversary events right now. And the good news is that we have two new anniversary heroes which are above me here, Octavian and Caesar. And that's all the good news really, because unfortunately the bad news is both these heroes are only available by paying for them. One is a Royal Recruitment hero, the other is an exclusive hero. It's really disappointing that we don't have like a new hero available through one of the anniversary events. That would have been like a real incentive to every player in the game, but we've got these two, so let's have a look at them. So first off, we'll go in alphabetical order. We've got Caesar. So, as I've said, Caesar is now the third Royal Recruitment hero available in the game after Arthur and Ramses. He requires the specific Royal Recruitment tickets on this banner here. And like Arthur and Ramses, this banner does not have a luck meter. The other bad news is that unlike those other two Royal Recruitment heroes, he doesn't require 4 copies, he requires 34 copies like the exclusive heroes do. The drop rate, according to the info bar on the banner, is that the drop rate is 3.7%. So in theory, you would need around 920 tickets to get 34 copies. Looking at the prices, that's around $3,000. Now, I have heard of people getting him for as low as like $1.8 or $2,000. The worst I've heard in chat in the last 24 hours is that someone paid $3,500 to max him. So obviously that is an incredibly high amount of money just for one single hero. So let's check out how good he is. In terms of the banner, that's all you get. You'll get him once you're lucky enough, once he actually drops you, and otherwise it's normal oranges. So Caesar, he's a ranged cavalry hero, so that means he's most likely going to be on the back row, and you can see from the recommended formation he is on the back row. We'll talk about this recommended formation more in later on. Let's look at his skills. So of course Caesar is the Roman Emperor. Dictator skill, as normal, 23,100 boosting marching heroes. You'd think for $3,000 you might get more troops in the squad led by Caesar, but no, it's the same as always. Skill 2, Divine Julius. It's a combat skill, effective range of 3, and it's targeting friendly squads. Starting from round 3, Caesar has 40% chance to cast a skill every round, which increases the might and resistance of all your cavalry squads by 200%. That's big. That's a 1200% boost, because it's 2 lots of 600%, 3 lots of 200%. And damage by 60%. Again, this is really OP. 60% extra damage for all 3 of your squads. That's huge. Meanwhile, Caesar has 20% more chance to launch additional attacks lasting till the battle ends. This skill can only be cast once. So he's going to support himself by increasing, so it's stating additional attacks, so we already know he's going to be a serial attack hero, similar to your Immortals, your Rangers, your Sundiatas then. And giving an extra 20%, that could be very useful. Every round, the chance of casting this skill increases by 20%. So starting on round 3, 40%, round 4, 60%, round 5, 80%, and then from round 6 to 8, it's a 100% chance that you're getting this additional might, resistance and damage every round. So towards the end of the battle, your whole legion is going to be tanky and doing a lot of damage. This is very OP. The only downside of this skill is that it's a combat skill, so it can be CC'd. Otherwise, very, very good. The other just quick thing I want to point out is that this starts on round 3. So even though he's a serial attack combo ranged hero, he's not going to synergize with a lot of the heroes we would traditionally put a serial attack hero with. So, for instance, your Reapers, your Immortals, your Sundiatas, they would usually be paired with, say, Rosen, Sakura, who else? Farah. Those three heroes, supporting heroes, they boost these attacks in the first 3 rounds. So the fact that this doesn't start until round 3 makes me think, I'm wondering what combo you're already going to be putting him in. So that's a mighty, mighty strong start to his skills. Skill 3, as usual, 50% extra resistance for your troops in the squad. And skill 4, 50% extra might for the troops in the squad. Skill 5, Coalition Strike. So here we go. Additional attack. What used to be called a passive skill. So after your normal troops action, which is always what happens, they action first. Then you've got a 60% chance to deal physical damage at a rate of 480% to 2 random squads. So that's 960%. That is high. And don't forget, from round 3, this is actually going to be 80% chance. Plus, 50% of the damage will be used to restore the troop power for 2 random squads on your side. The skill will have a cooldown of 1 round after being cast. Okay, that is a negative. But let's look at the positives. Doing a lot of damage, 960%. You're getting healing from him, even though he's a ranged hero, so that could benefit. And we'll look at that, how that's going to benefit later, particularly with Octavian. The skill will have a cooldown of 1 round after being cast. Okay, downside already. It'll only action 4 times in the battle then, right? So you're only getting 4 lots of healing, you're only getting 4 lots of damage. That's not quite so good. However, I would point out, like, again, I'm still waiting for this kind of hero to turn up that is going to have some kind of skill that will remove cooldown from the skills. We've seen it from other heroes as well. Like footman heroes are coming in with cooldown. I'm just waiting for this hero that's going to have something that mitigates cooldown. Anyway, let's look at skill 6. 15% increased might and resistance, yeah. 15% increased damage, yes, you'd expect extra damage from a ranged hero. And skill 7, of course, is extra might. Which brings us to skill 8, Dictating Ruler. It's additional attack again, so passive skill activates after a normal attack. 50% chance to deal physical damage to 2 to 3 squads. Damage rate of 310%. That's pretty good already. I hate these kind of 2 to 3 squad random skills where you don't actually know how many it's going to do. 50% chance, not huge initially, but don't forget, from round 3, this increases to 70% because of his skill 2. And the Dictating Ruler's damage rate will increase by 1 time each time the skill is cast. This effect can be stacked and lasts until the end of the battle, but this skill can only be triggered once per round. Now, this, I presume, is to do with... I presume it means that this part of the skill can only be triggered once per round. And what that means is that each time this skill activates, once a round, it increases the damage rate. So on round 1, it would be 310%. Round 2, if it triggered, it would be 620%. Round 3, if it was triggered, 930%. All the way up to a potential maximum of 2,480% in round 8. Just breathe that in, people. That is absolutely huge amounts of damage, and that is why potentially Caesar is the most OP hero in terms of his base skills. But then it's whether you can get him to synergize with existing heroes is going to be the key element. And equally, obviously, how many times would this skill actually activate every round? It's going to be very rare, but still, you could be potentially doing a very high amount of damage from rounds 4 or 5. And don't forget as well, combine that with the fact that he's got extra might, he's got extra damage, which is highly likely to happen from round 3 and guaranteed on 6, 7 and 8. Basically, the last 3 rounds of the battle, Caesar is doing an absolutely huge amount of damage. The only thing I would say about him is that he is going to be susceptible to CC, that's crowd control. So, i.e., heroes that are going to disarm him, silence him, because if you silence this skill too, then that takes away this abilities to increase all these attributes. And also, of course, if you confuse him, when he's doing all this damage, particularly towards the end of the battle. That could be catastrophic for you. So the only other thing to note is that it looks like you're going to have to synergize him with cavalry squads, because this only increases might and resistance and damage with cavalry, not with other legions. So maybe, I know people are testing him in mixed legions, but maybe some way you're going to have to get him to fit into a single troop type legion, which is why, one of the reasons why I think the devs have put Cleo in the recommended formation. But we'll talk about why that's probably not the best thing in a bit. So that's Caesar. Let's go on to Octavian. So Octavian, as I say, is a exclusive hero. So that's like Cleo, Jeanne d'Arc, Boudica, etc. You can get him mainly through the Lucky Wheels, and he's going to require, he is an exclusive hero as well, he's going to require 34 copies as well. I've heard of people paying about 1.5, 1.7 for him, like as in $1,500, $1,700. If you add that to the worst case scenario for Caesar, you're talking about, well, best case scenario, you're talking about $3,500 for these two heroes. Worst case scenario, you're talking about $5,000. That's, you know, some poor souls out there will end up paying $5,000 for these two heroes, which is, in my mind, extremely excessive, considering they've both been released in the game in the same week. That's just in my mind. Only the top spenders in the game are going to even be able to afford both of these two immediately, and other people are really going to have to think hard about whether they want to invest in them. Let's have a look at Octavian then. Augustus Octavian, defensive cavalry hero, so they're boosting cavalry again, with both these heroes being cavalry heroes. His first skill is, as usual, the 23,100 extra troops. His skill 2, Augustus, it's a status skill, so activates pre-battle. It's guaranteed to action, whatever the detail of that action is, and that's going to be that Octavian has an 80% chance to gain the taunting effect every round. So it's not guaranteed that this skill will actually activate, or the skill will take place. When a random squad is to be chosen by the enemy's active skill or additional attack, Octavian will be chosen first. The chance of casting the skill decreases by 5% every round. Okay, so it starts at 80%, very high chance of this activating in the early parts of the battle. You're going to be deflecting effectively any damage from your middle or back row onto him. That's the idea of this. Or you're guaranteeing a certain amount of it being deflected onto him, because don't forget, a lot of the opponent's random skills will now usually target 2 or 3 of the opponent's squads. So all this is saying that it does is that it says Octavian will be chosen first. I'm not sure how great that is. Also, by the 8th round, it's reducing 5% every round. So obviously round 2 it's 75, round 3 70, etc, etc. So it's getting less actioned throughout the battle. It's not great, but I guess it's kind of, you're giving some kind of layer of defense. Skill 3, it's the usual 50% resistance. Skill 4, usual 50% might. Skill 5, seizing power, pre-battle skill. So prep skill, it'll again activate pre-battle. It's basically guaranteed to happen. This also is to do with friendly squad. So Octavian takes minus 25% damage. Okay, that's not great damage mitigation, particularly when you've got heroes dealing way more damage than that in lots of scenarios, and you've actually got better damage mitigation from many different other heroes. But each time he's taking damage, there's a 100% chance to increase the might of one random friendly squad by 30%. That doesn't sound like much initially, until you read that this effect can be stacked up to 10 layers for each squad. So, in theory, he can, if he takes 30 lots of damage in the battle, he will buff all 3 of the squads by might by 300%. Now that is absolutely huge, but that's based on the presumption that once one of the squads reaches their 10 stacks, then it will automatically give an extra increase of the might to one of the other two squads that still has available stacks of this skill, right? Or could we make another assumption that potentially this will allocate the increase to the same squad, even if it's already maxed out its 10 layers? If that's the case, then this isn't quite so effective, right? We don't know. Again, there's never enough detail in these skill descriptions. The other thing is 30 attacks. That's around 3 to 4 a round. How likely... I mean, he's already... I guess this synergizes with his skill too, because he's kind of trying to basically taunt and attract the damage in the first place, right? Which we've seen from a couple of other heroes as well. So it potentially could be very good. And obviously, if you're boosting, for instance, Caesar's might... Oh, and I've forgotten to change over the image. There we go. Then by another 300% on top of the 200% he's doing, then these two heroes potentially in the same legion are going to be boosting might by 500% at the end of the battle. But could it be too late by then? You don't know. And then part 2 of this skill. So you might have seen recently that the devs actually, I think it might have been even yesterday, the devs released a mail saying they've already amended this skill. So what they've said is, after receiving feedback from many lords, the Imperial Council have made adjustments to Octavian's 5th skill. Now, at the start of battles, this skill will put our middle and back line, back row squads into an evasive estate. That's dodge, that when it comes off in the battle report. Granting immunity to the next 3 incoming damages for a duration of 2 rounds. So, is this giving you a total of 3 evasions, 3 dodges per round for 2 rounds, or is it just a total of 3 evasions period, and it only covers for 2 rounds, right? It's, again, description's not very clear in my mind anyway. I don't like dodge. It's not as effective as healing, and I'm still not sure. I guess, again, you're trying to protect the other squads in your legion as long as possible, which in theory would synergize with the fact that Caesar's only going to really start going from round 3. That kind of seems logical to me, but it's not a great improvement, and I'm guessing that's an additional element to the skill. It's not a replacement of what's already there, because if it was replacing the skill, then that's a massive... That's not an improvement at all, and I don't understand why they've gone with dodge. I'm not sure. I don't know who was giving the feedback to the devs. I haven't given them any feedback on these heroes, personally. Let's check out his skill 6 as well. Hero squad gains 15% cavalry might and resistance. And now, again, I find this surprising. 100% cavalry combat speed. Surely, if he's attracting all this damage, you'd want him to have extra HP on skill 6. But they've gone with extra combat speed. Cavalry units in the hero's formation has 40% might. He's not giving extra resistance. Again, not what you really think from a defensive hero. And then finally, skill 8, martial. It's another prep skill, so okay, it's definitely going to be activating each battle, so that's consistency at least. When the HP, and there's multiple elements to this skill, 4 elements in fact. When the HP drops below 85% for the first time, so if you had 100,000, you start with 100,000 troops. As soon as you hit 84,999 in your squads, all your squads will take minus 50% skill damage, lasting 3 rounds. That's pretty nice damage mitigation, and don't forget his skill 5 is already giving him 25% damage mitigation. So that's a total of 75%. Now that is starting to get high level. Then, when the HP drops below 50% for the first time, all the enemy squads will immediately take some physical damage. It's 350%. Times that by 3, 1050. That's okay, not amazing. And then when the HP drops below 25%, it'll do it again. Another 1050 again. Not amazing, but it's pretty good for like what would be like an add-on of a skill, really. Plus, obviously, he'd probably be doing extra might and from that damage anyway. Every time the skill is triggered, it will increase its own resistance by 150%. As in, your own squad. I presume that's what it means. So part 1, you get 150% resistance. Part 2, at 50%, you get an extra 300% resistance. And part 3, you're getting an extra 450% resistance if you're running out of troops towards the end of the battle on that front row. Maybe this is why they haven't gone with extra HP on the 6th skill, because this is a really huge buff of resistance. And don't forget, if you're pairing him with Caesar, Caesar's giving him an extra 200% resistance potentially towards the end of the battle as well. So potentially he could have an extra 650% resistance if the troop count is lower than 25,000 estimated procs, and you're in round 6 to 8 where that skill 2 for Caesar is basically guaranteed. That would be pretty huge. So where does this all fit in terms of combos? And this is the main thing that people have been kind of querying about this week. And I know there's been a lot of chat about who fits where. I'll try and cover this just as quickly as possible because I know this video is dragging on, but there's a lot to discuss with these heroes. So suggested formations for Caesar came out, and they're recommending Hunk, Cleo, Caesar, Octavian, Pompey, Caesar. I think Pompey's rubbish, but fair enough. Or then earlier in the game as well, at S3, you go back to Octavian, Cleo, Caesar. So in my mind, they've suggested Cleo because Cleo's 2nd skill does synergize, because she gives dodge to the middle and back row in the first few rounds as well, right? So combine that with what Octavian is doing, you're giving a lot of protection to your back row hero, and that's what you want from Caesar, because like I've said many times, Caesar is really getting going from round 3 onwards, which again counteracts what you'd normally do with a serial attack hero. But anyway, my problem is that after that, the synergy really kind of ends with that with Cleo. She doesn't have a lot else that's working with these guys, and that's why I don't think you're going to find this is the top combo. From what people have been saying, Hunk, Warden, Caesar has been very effective, but I would like to add again, okay, Warden is adding the extra percentage chance to Hunk's 5th skill, that's great, but with Caesar, you're already getting that extra 20%, right, from round 3 onwards, from his 2nd skill alone, and that 5th skill has that 1 round of cooldown, so I actually don't personally think potentially you're not worth pairing Warden with Caesar, other than if you are you're really super boosting his 8th skill and guaranteeing it activating at least once a round, which then increases that damage rate to give you huge damage towards the end of the battle. But is that potentially the best use of them? I don't know. In my mind, and I haven't even really thought about, I haven't actually tested this, I don't have either of these heroes. I'm just wondering if you could do something a bit off, a bit crazy with these heroes because of the extra might and resistance they're giving, because Caesar does do a bit of healing. Octavian is trying to protect that middle row hero a little bit as well. Is this a scenario where you could actually use 2 of the serial attack heroes and put them and go for like middle and back row, and like you could go Octavian Immortal Caesar, Octavian Sundiata Caesar, Octavian Ranger Caesar, particularly if you've got Ranger with the skin, or could you even do Octavian Hellfire Caesar? Like Hellfire would be a nice balanced hero to go with these guys. He's giving healing, he's giving he's giving healing to the lowest, to the squad with the lowest total, isn't he? I think that's his 5th skill. He's giving extra damage as well to the heroes. So, and Hellfire is not used in any of the top combos right now. So that's where I'm going with it, guys, in my mind. I don't know. I'd be interested to just see some testing in the coming days. Like I say, this is just my kind of first look video. There was a lot to kind of take in with these 2 heroes because they're a bit more complicated than normal. And I'd be interested to hear your comments in the comment section down below about who you think they synergize with. And what do you think about the fact that we've got these 2 premium heroes in the same week? Well, I'm pretty sure I know what most people are going to think. And it's not going to be positive. So please do pop your comments in the comment section down below, and if you have liked this video, please do click on that like, and if you could share this video on my channel in your Alliance chat, Province chat, guild chat, map chat, and through the line WhatsApp, Viber, Discord, whatever you use to communicate with your fellow players in the game. that would be very much appreciated. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.